Well, we just like to take, a chance, especially in the evening sessions, to just to give a chance for some other people to kind of give a testimony. Last night, Micah shared a little bit of a testimony from his own life and what God's been doing. And there's another young man, Stephen Alexney, who I'd like to introduce to you. Yeah, give it up for Stephen. Now, as you can tell, he's been in Kansas City from the hat. He's got 2 of them and wears them every day. No, not every day, but so Stephen's going to share a little bit about kind of his story. I'm not going to tell you really who he is, because he'll tell that for himself. I just want to say that I have appreciated this young man. I've known him since he was in high school, finishing up high school, and have just really his devotion to God, his desire to learn and to grow in prayer and in worship is fairly extraordinary. We first came, and he actually, I'm going to say this because you always like it when I say it and acknowledge that it's true. I know, I'm going to say it for you. He was our first ever intern. And he did tremendous stuff with Nathan Jesperson over back when we were in West Edmonton Mall. And so I'm just going to invite Stephen to share for a few minutes here, and he can fill you in on what God's doing in his life.
Great. I just want to share a bit of a testimony. I just recently came full-time on staff here at the House of Prayer in Edmonton, and I've been on staff for the past 2 years, part-time, or just over 2 years, and just recently made the transition to come on staff here full-time. I've been able to raise enough financial support, and the Lord made way. And I just kind of wanted to share my desire and my heart for the prayer movement and the House of Prayer. And just a little bit of my own testimony and how the Lord kind of called me here to the House of Prayer in Edmonton. When I got saved when I was in grade 10, and early grade 10, kind of summer grade 9 or something like that. And I got saved around that time. Nothing too radical happened, but about 8-9 months later, I had this experience. Call it baptism of the Holy Spirit. I didn't speak in tongues. I believe in that, but at this moment I didn't speak in tongues. I got water baptized, and about 9 months after my conversion, I got water baptized, and simultaneously I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. And this was just kind of the end of grade 10 for me in high school, and then all of a sudden, after I got water baptized, this passion for Jesus started growing inside me to the extent of there's like a couple months left in high school, my first year of high school, and I just started praying an hour a day. And then all of a sudden I started praying 2 hours a day. And I started praying 3 hours a day in grade 10. And then, so this was just growing, this energy and passion for Jesus was growing inside of me. And so I'm coming up to the summer of grade 10. This thing is just growing and growing inside me. And what's a kid going to do with this thing inside him, summer of grade 10, when he has no plans? And so for the summer of grade 10, about 2 to 3 months, I don't like to, I hate it when people exaggerate testimonies, but I literally, I would wake up in the morning, I would roll over on the floor of my bedroom, and I would lie there, and I had my Bible open. I would read my Bible for about 10 to 12 hours a day for 3 months. That's not exaggerated. Unless I had other plans, I wouldn't do anything. And unless my mom called me out for lunch, I wouldn't leave my room. And when I was doing other events in youth group or whatever potlucks, I was like, get me away from this. Let me lie on the floor of my room and talk to Jesus. And it was the most unique time in my life. I've never experienced anything like that. Anyway, so that's just kind of how I got saved and how the Lord brought me into this place of prayer and worship and just passion for Jesus. So I was around grade 11, Donovan, he was on staff here. He's my brother-in-law. He's on the worship team. He would be the last guitarist over there. And he was on staff here for about 2-3 years. And so he got me involved here at the House of Prayer, kind of introduced me here, and started coming on a fairly often basis and sitting under the teachings of Jim, and just hearing the vision of night and day prayer and worship was just stirring this passion that I had for Jesus, but it was giving language to this passion I had for Jesus. And it was like, this is what I've been longing for as a people of this kind of nature, had this intensity. And so I was coming to the end of grade 11, and I was at this time, high school is over, and so you can't spend the whole day in prayer. So I would stay up till about 2 or 3 a.m., and my mom would come down and start getting mad at me. And I'd be in the place of prayer, though. And so I was talking to Jim just kind of end of grade 11, and we kind of had this thing going, and I asked him if I could kind of do a little internship. And Micah was the second intern, but I was the first. Jim called me the guinea pig, and because I like that, I was like, yeah, I'm the guinea pig. But I just remember in that season, the Lord, just through Jim's teaching, the theology of night and day prayer and worship, and more than just A, B, C, blank, but just how we theologians kind of treat the Bible, but it was the worth of God and the beauty of Jesus. My heart was coming alive so greatly, and I was just like, Lord, this is the most beautiful thing, hearing about IHOP and going down there in that season of life. And though I was being surrounded by these staff members at the House of Prayer here in Edmonton. And I remember in that season just being so stirred by this concept of night and day prayer and worship. And I felt as if the Lord was offering to me an opportunity or an invitation to come on staff here at the House of Prayer in Edmonton. So I'm in summer of grade 11 at this time, and I felt like he was giving me an opportunity, or he was giving me the invitation for 10 years specifically. And so I was just like, I signed up right then and there. I'm like, this is what I want to give myself to long term. I want to give myself here in Edmonton to the establishment of the House of Prayer in Edmonton. I love what's happening in Kansas City. I've been there often. I just got back. I was there for 3 weeks, and the Lord met me, and he encountered me. But I'm like, I really, my heart is set on seeing night and day prayer and worship established in Edmonton here, Whether the Lord would want to look 2 a.m. to Edmonton, whether he want to turn his gaze 5 p.m. to Edmonton, that there would be a company of people with their hands raised singing to the glory of Jesus. Anyway, so I finished grade 12, and I went down to Kansas City. I did an internship there for 6 months, and the Lord did some really profound things for me there. And it was a great experience, and I met the Lord. But the one thing, though, I was in pain when I was down there in Kansas City. I was in pain in my spirit, and it was a good pain, I feel. Because I was in Kansas City, and I would hear Mike Bickle, he's the director of the House of Prayer, and he would tell the stories of the beginnings of IHOP, the early beginnings, and just the small prayer meetings that he would have at his church. I think they have five-hour prayer meetings a day, 6 hours of prayer meetings a day, and he would talk about it, and you're like, 6 hours of prayer meetings a day, and he would say, but there was 2 people in the room. And it felt so weak, and they were the most unanointed prayer meetings. And so I was listening to this, and that sounds exactly like what's happening in Edmonton. Right? And so I'm in Kansas City, and I'm hearing this stuff and these stories about the beginnings of IHOP, and I'm like, that's incredible. And so my heart was totally and completely turned to coming back to Edmonton. And I want to establish in Edmonton night and day prayer and worship. And I don't just want to go to a place where they're at. I want to build the foundation of the House of Prayer in Edmonton and sow my life into this thing. Yeah, so that was just a little testimony. I thought that would just encourage some. One last thing I want to say. I just kind of forgot that, and then I just kind of said that. But I just want to say, as just a testimony of Jim, he's been on staff here for full-time at the House of Prayer for 5 years. I just came on staff full-time. My friend Mark, my roommate Mark, also came on staff full-time. And the Lord's doing something here in Edmonton, really dynamic. You know, I've heard of the House of Prayers in other places of the earth and other places. And one of the things, the stories I heard when I was in Kansas City, many of the staff went to Kansas City because they were involved with smaller houses of prayer, but the leadership wasn't firm. So the House of Prayer would go for 7 years, and one leader would fall down because they would get burnt out, and another leader would go, and another leader would go, and then they said, okay, we're just going to go to Kansas City. And I remember just thinking about Jim. He's been here for 5 to 6 years, so dedicated, and this is a firm foundation where the Lord wants to build something. And so, just with that understanding, you know, you don't have to go. If you feel like you've been called to the House of Prayer, night and day prayer and worship, you don't have to go to Kansas City. You don't have to. You know, if you're stirred with night and day prayer and worship, you can build it here in Edmonton. You can come to Edmonton and build a foundation of night and day prayer and worship, right? And you can come, and there is a way and a path made for you to come on staff and minister to the Lord. Anyway.
It's good. Now, when Stephen and I, we actually were down in Kansas City a few weeks ago together, and unfortunately, I have to confess that apparently I'm now at the age where people assume that I'm his father, and so that's taken a bit of getting used to, you know. But it's really wonderful to be able to run with Stephen in this way.